The rain hammered against the windows of the small cabin nestled deep in the Colorado mountains. Jake Morrison sat by the fireplace, cleaning his old service rifle with methodical precision. His weathered hands moved with practiced ease, each motion ingrained from 20 years of military service. The scars on his knuckles told stories of battles fought in places most people couldn't pronounce, let alone find on a map. He had been out of the Navy SEALs for 3 years now. 3 years of trying to find peace in the solitude of the mountains. 3 years of attempting to forget the faces of men he had killed in service to his country. The nightmares still came sometimes, but the quiet life helped. He had a routine now. Wake at dawn, check the perimeter, maintain his equipment, hunt for food, and spend evenings reading by the fire. Jake had no idea that his life was about to change forever. 500 light years away, in the gleaming palace of the Galactic Empire, Emperor Zarthan IX sat on his crystalline throne. His 4 arms drummed impatiently against the armrests as he reviewed the holographic reports floating before him. The human colony on Kepler 442b had rejected his latest demands for tribute. Worse, they had sent back his tax collectors in pieces. Humans, he hissed through his mandibles. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. In the 200 years since first contact, humans had proven to be the most stubborn species in the galaxy. While other races had quickly submitted to the Empire's rule, humans had fought tooth and nail for every inch of space they claimed. Your Excellency, his advisor, a thin creature with translucent skin, bowed low. The humans have fortified their position. Our initial strike force was unsuccessful. The Emperor's eyes, all 6 of them, narrowed dangerously. Unsuccessful? They were the pride of our military. The humans appear to have recruited someone special to lead their defense. Intelligence suggests he is one of their elite warriors, something they call a SEAL. His name is Jake Morrison. The Emperor's fury manifested as a low growl that shook the throne room. Palace guards instinctively took a step back. When the Emperor was angry, heads literally rolled. One human defeated my forces. He appears to be exceptionally skilled, Your Excellency. Our soldiers reported that he moved like a ghost, striking from shadows. He eliminated an entire battalion before they even knew he was there. Emperor Zarthan rose from his throne, his massive frame towering over everyone in the room. At 12 feet tall, with armor-plated skin and muscles that could crush steel, he was the pinnacle of his species' evolution. He had conquered 17 star systems, enslaved dozens of races, and built an empire that spanned a significant portion of the galaxy. He would not be humiliated by a single human. Send the Shadow Blades, he commanded. A collective gasp echoed through the throne room. The Shadow Blades were the Empire's most feared assassins. Genetically modified killers who could phase through solid matter, see in complete darkness, and kill with a thought. They had never failed mission. All of them, Your Excellency, the advisor asked, his voice trembling. All 12. I want this Jake Morrison's head delivered to me within a solar cycle. And I want it done quietly. No one must know that a human gave us this much trouble. The advisor bowed and scurried away to relay the orders. The Emperor returned to his throne, confident that the matter would soon be resolved. Back on Earth, Jake finished cleaning his rifle and set it aside. He moved to the window, gazing out at the snow-covered peaks. Something fell off tonight. His instincts, honed through years of combat, were screaming at him. He had learned long ago to trust those instincts. They had saved his life more times than he could count. He checked his security systems. Everything appeared normal. Motion sensors showed only the usual wildlife. Thermal imaging revealed nothing out of the ordinary. Still, the feeling persisted. Jake suited up in his old tactical gear, just in case. The Kevlar vest still fit perfectly, and his combat knife slid into its sheath with a familiar click. He loaded his rifle and pistol with armor-piercing rounds, another habit from his military days. Always be prepared. As midnight approached, Jake made himself a cup of coffee and settled into his favorite chair, facing the door. If trouble was coming, he would be ready for it. He didn't have to wait long. The first sign was the silence. The normal sounds of the night, crickets, owls, the rustle of wind through trees, all stopped at once. Jake's grip tightened on his rifle. In his experience, when nature went quiet, predators were near. Then came the shadows. They moved wrong, sliding across his walls in ways that defied the laws of physics. Jake had seen a lot of strange things during his time in the Special Forces, but nothing quite like this. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees in an instant. Frost began forming on the windows. Jake's breath came out in visible puffs. "Interesting entrance," he said to the empty room. "But I've seen scarier things in Afghanistan." A figure materialized from the shadows, tall, thin, with skin like living darkness. Its eyes were pools of red light, and when it smiled, it revealed rows of needle-sharp teeth. "Jake Morrison," it spoke, its voice like grinding glass. "By order of Emperor Zarthan IX, you are sentenced to death." Jake took a sip of his coffee. "Get in line. You're not the first to try, and you won't be the last." The Shadowblade laughed, a sound that would have driven lesser men mad. "We are not like your Earth enemies, human. We are your death incarnate." "We?" Jake asked, though he had already spotted the others. 12 in total, just as his motion sensors had suddenly detected. They had somehow bypassed his security until they chose to reveal themselves. "The Emperor sent all of us for you. You should feel honored." Jake set down his coffee cup and stood up slowly. 12 of you for one old soldier. Your Emperor must be scared." The lead Shadowblade's expression twisted in rage. "The Emperor fears nothing, least of all a primitive human." "Then why send his best assassins? Why not come himself?" The temperature dropped another 10 degrees. The Shadowblades were losing patience. "Enough talk," the leader hissed. "Time to die." They moved as one, faster than any human I could follow. But Jake Morrison was no ordinary human. 20 years of combat had given him instincts that bordered on precognition. He was already moving before they attacked, his rifle spitting fire. The armor-piercing rounds tore through the first Shadowblade's center mass. To Jake's surprise, the creature kept coming. Black blood sprayed across his wall, but the assassin barely slowed down. Jake rolled behind his heavy oak table, flipping it up as a barrier. Claws that could shred steel tore through the wood like paper. He came up firing, putting 3 rounds into another Shadowblade's head. This one dropped and didn't get back up. "So you can die," Jake muttered. "Good to know." The remaining 10 assassins changed tactics. They began phasing in and out of reality, appearing and disappearing at will. Jake couldn't track them all. Claws raked across his back, tearing through his vest like it wasn't there. He spun, firing blind, and was rewarded with a scream of pain. The cabin became a war zone. Furniture exploded into splinters. Walls were torn apart. Jake fought with everything he had: rifle, pistol, knife, and when those ran out, his bare hands. One Shadowblade got too close, and Jake demonstrated why Navy SEALs were feared across Earth. He caught the creature's arm, used its own momentum against it, and snapped its neck with a move he had perfected in training. The alien's head twisted completely around before it dropped. But there were too many. For everyone he killed, 2 more seemed to take its place. His ammunition was running low, and the wounds were adding up. His blood, painted the floor. Jake made a tactical decision. He grabbed 2 grenades from his vest, pulled the pins, and dove through the window. The explosion lit up the night sky. His cabin, his home for 3 years, disappeared in a ball of fire. Jake rolled through the snow, came up running, and disappeared into the forest he knew better than anyone. Behind him, 7 Shadowblades emerged from the flames. Their leader looked at the destruction with something approaching respect. "He killed 5 of us," one of them said, disbelief clear in its voice. "No one has ever killed even one before." "The Emperor will not accept failure," the leader reminded them. "Hunt him down. The human is wounded and alone in these woods. He cannot escape." They spread out, melting into the darkness. They were the greatest hunters in the galaxy, and their prey was injured and on foot. This would be over soon. But Jake Morrison had spent 3 years learning every trail, every cave, every hidden spot in these mountains. More importantly, he had spent 20 years learning how to be the hunter, not the hunted. As the Shadowblades pursued him into the forest, Jake smiled grimly. They thought they had him at a disadvantage. They were about to learn why humans had survived everything Earth had thrown at them for millions of years. The hunt was on, but the Shadowblades had no idea they were about to become the prey. The mountain forest at night was a different world. Jake moved through it like a ghost, his footsteps silent on the snow despite his injuries. Blood dripped from multiple wounds, leaving a trail the Shadowblades could follow. That was fine. He wanted them to follow. 20 yards behind him, he had rigged the first surprise. A simple trap, a bent sapling with sharpened stakes, triggered by a nearly invisible wire. The Shadowblades might be alien assassins, but physics worked the same for everyone. He heard the snap of the trap, followed by an inhuman scream. 6 left. Jake pressed deeper into the woods, toward the old ranger station he had discovered years ago. His breathing was labored, and his left arm hung useless at his side where claws had shredded muscle and tendon. But pain was an old friend. Pain meant he was still alive. The Shadowblades were learning caution. They moved more carefully now, checking for traps. But caution made them slower, and Jake needed time to reach his destination. He paused at a narrow ravine, quickly rigging another surprise with his remaining grenade and some fishing line. Then he leaped across, deliberately leaving clear tracks on the far side. Let them think he was getting careless. The explosion echoed through the mountains 5 minutes later. Jake didn't look back to see if it had worked. He kept moving. The old ranger station appeared through the trees, a concrete structure built to withstand forest fires. More importantly, Jake had turned it into a supply cache. Medical supplies, ammunition, weapons, and food. He had always been paranoid about needing a backup location. Tonight, that paranoia would save his life. He kicked in the door and immediately went for the medical kit. No time for proper treatment. He slapped emergency biofoam onto the worst wounds, bit down on a leather strap, and forced his dislocated shoulder back into place. The pain nearly made him black out, but he pushed through it. New magazines for his rifle. Fresh pistol. More grenades. Jake geared up quickly, knowing the Shadowblades wouldn't be far behind. Through the window, he saw them approaching. 5 now. The grenade had claimed another one. They moved differently than before. No more arrogance. No more assuming their prey was helpless. They had learned respect. Jake smiled grimly. Time to teach them fear. He slipped out the back door and circled around. The Shadowblades entered the station cautiously, weapons ready. They found blood on the medical supplies, signs of hasty treatment. Their leader gestured for them to spread out and search. That's when Jake struck. The Claymore mine he had planted months ago, paranoid about someone finding his cache, detonated with devastating force. The entire front wall of the station disappeared. 2 Shadowblades were instantly vaporized. Another crawled from the wreckage, missing its lower half. Jake put a bullet in its head as a mercy. 2 left. The leader and one other had been outside the blast radius. They spun toward Jake's muzzle flash, moving with inhuman speed. Jake was already displaced, using the smoke and debris as cover. "You fight without honor," the leader screamed. "Face us directly." Jake's voice came from somewhere in the smoke. "Honor is a luxury I can't afford. Besides, you're assassins. Don't talk to me about honor." He had studied them during the fight at his cabin. They were fast, strong, and could phase through matter. But phasing required concentration. Distract them, and they became solid. Solid things could be killed. Jake pulled the pin on a flashbang and tossed it between them. Even alien eyes, he reasoned, wouldn't like suddenly, staring into a miniature sun. The blast of light and sound had the desired effect. Both Shadowblades staggered, their phasing ability disrupted. Jake came out of cover, rifle chattering. The subordinate Shadowblade took a burst to the chest and went down hard. The leader was faster. It dove aside, rolled, and came up with its own weapon, some kind of energy projector. The beam seared past Jake's head, turning a tree behind him into ash. They exchanged fire among the burning ruins of the ranger station. Jake's rifle clicked empty. He drew his pistol, kept shooting. The Shadowblade's weapon was more powerful, but Jake had spent decades learning to make every shot count. A pistol round found the alien's weapon, destroying it in a shower of sparks. The Shadowblade howled and Charge, claws extended. Jake met the charge head-on. They crashed together, human muscle against alien strength. The Shadow Blade was stronger, but Jake knew how to use leverage. They rolled through the snow, each trying to gain position. Claws raked across Jake's chest, parting armor and flesh. Jake's knife found the alien's side, sliding between plates of natural armor. They broke apart, both wounded, both breathing hard. "You cannot win," the Shadow Blade gasped, black blood dripping from its mouth. "Even if you kill me, the Emperor will send more. He will never stop." Jake wiped blood from his eyes. "Then I'll kill them too." "Why? Why do you fight so hard? You could surrender. The Emperor might even spare your life, make you a general in his army. You invaded our colonies, killed our people. Did you really think we'd just roll over?" The Shadow Blade laughed, a wet, choking sound. "Every other species did." "Yeah, well," Jake checked his pistol. 3 rounds left. Humans are stubborn like that. They circled each other in the snow, predator and predator. The Shadow Blade's movements were getting sluggish. The knife wound was worse than it looked. Jake wasn't doing much better. Blood loss was making him dizzy. The alien made its move, phasing out of reality for a split second to close the distance. But Jake had been waiting for this. He didn't try to track the phase. Instead, he predicted where the Shadow Blade would reappear based on its previous patterns. His knife was waiting when the alien solidified. The blade punched through the Shadow Blade's throat. Its eyes went wide with surprise. It tried to speak, but only blood came out. Jake caught the dying alien as it fell, lowering it almost gently to the ground. "Tell your Emperor," Jake whispered, "that humans don't kneel." The last Shadow Blade died with something like respect in its eyes. Jake sat in the snow for a long moment, catching his breath. 12 of the galaxy's greatest assassins, and he had killed them all. But he was badly hurt. He needed proper medical attention soon, or he would bleed out. First things first, though, he had a message to send. It took most of his remaining strength to drag the 12 bodies together. Jake had learned in the SEALs that psychological warfare was sometimes more effective than bullets. The Emperor had sent his best. Jake would send them back. He found a Shadow Blade ship hidden in a valley 2 miles away. Alien technology, but the controls were intuitive enough. Jake had always been good with machines. He loaded the bodies, set the autopilot for the coordinates he found in the navigation system, and added one more thing. His dog tags. Let the Emperor know exactly who had done this. As the ship lifted off, carrying its grim cargo back to the Galactic Empire, Jake allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then, he triggered his emergency beacon. The colony on Kepler 442b monitored Earth frequencies. They would send help. He sat down against a tree to wait, rifle across his lap, just in case the Emperor had sent 13. 500 light-years away, Emperor Zarthan 9 was holding court when a ship arrived. He had been expecting news of Jake Morrison's death. What he got instead made his purple blood run cold. The cargo bay opened to reveal 12 bodies, laid out neatly. His Shadow Blades. All of them. Dead. A pair of primitive metal tags lay on the leader's chest. Human dog tags. The name was clear. Morrison Jake. U.S. Navy SEAL. The throne room erupted in chaos. Nobles who had never seen the Emperor show fear watched as all 6 of his eyes widened in shock. The Shadow Blades had never failed. They were perfect killers, bred and trained from birth to be unstoppable. One human had stopped them all. "Your Excellency," his advisor whispered, "what are your orders?" The Emperor stared at the bodies for a long time. His initial rage gave way to something else. Calculation. Reevaluation. He had underestimated humans in general, and this Jake Morrison in particular. "Double the guard," he said finally, and sent a message to the human colonies. Tell them we wish to negotiate." "Negotiate, Your Excellency?" A species that can produce warriors like this Jake Morrison is too dangerous to have as enemies. Better to have them as allies, or at least not actively trying to kill us. The advisor bowed and hurried away. The Emperor continued to stare at the bodies of his assassins. In 200 years of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. One human, one soldier, and he had destroyed the Empire's most feared killers. Perhaps it was time to reconsider his approach to humanity. Jake woke up in a med bay, machines beeping around him. The ceiling was metallic, not the white tiles of an Earth hospital. He was on a ship. His hand instinctively moved for a weapon that wasn't there. Easy, soldier. A familiar voice made him relax slightly. Colonel Sarek Chun, commander of the Kepler, 442B Colony Defense Forces, sat beside his bed. You've been out for 3 days. The docs had to basically rebuild half your organs. The Shadow Blades? Dead. All 12. Just like you reported. You've caused quite a stir, Morrison. The whole galaxy is talking about the human who killed the Emperor's pet assassins. Jake tried to sit up, winced as pain shot through his body. The colony? Is it safe? For now. The Emperor hasn't made any moves yet. In fact, Chun paused, looking uncomfortable. He sent a message. A request for negotiations. You're kidding. I wish I was. The mighty Emperor Zarthan, scourge of the galaxy, wants to talk peace. And he specifically asked that you be present at the negotiations. Jake laughed, then regretted it as his ribs protested. Tell him to go to hell. I would love to, but it's not that simple. Chun pulled up a holographic display. The Empire controls most of the explored galaxy. We've been fighting a guerrilla war for years, but we can't win a straight fight. If there's a chance for peace, there's no peace with tyrants, Colonel. Just temporary ceasefires while they regroup. Maybe, but we need time to build our strength. Every day of peace is another day we can prepare. She studied him carefully. I'm not ordering you to go. After what you've been through, no one would blame you for saying no. But I am asking. Jake closed his eyes. He thought of the colonists on Kepler, 442b, families trying to build new lives among the stars. He thought of Earth, still recovering from the first contact wars. He thought of all the humans scattered across the galaxy, fighting to survive against impossible odds. When? 2 weeks. Neutral ground, the Merchant Guild Station at Proxima Centauri. The Emperor will be there personally. Personally? Jake's eyes snapped open. He's leaving his palace? First time in 50 years. You really shook him up, Morrison. Jake processed this information. The Emperor, leaving the safety of his fortress world. Either this was a trap, or he was genuinely concerned about humanity's threat potential. Fina, I'll go, but I go armed. They'll never agree to that. Then, there's no meeting. I just killed 12 of their best assassins. I'm not walking into a room with their Emperor unarmed. Chin smiled. I'll relay your terms. Something tells me they'll agree. You've got them spooked, Jake. One man shouldn't be able to do what you did. I had advantages. They underestimated me. That won't happen again. Maybe not. But the psychological impact, the Empire's other subject races are already talking. If one human can kill 12 Shadow Blades, what could 1,000 humans do? 10,000? You've given them hope. Jake wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not. Hope could make people brave. It could also make them reckless. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. Jake underwent intensive regenerative therapy, pushing his body to heal faster than should have been possible. He trained relentlessly, studying everything they knew about Galactic Empire technology, tactics, and psychology. If this was a trap, he would be ready. If it was genuine, he would still be ready. The Merchant Guild Station was a massive structure, a neutral zone where the various races of the galaxy could trade without fear of Imperial interference. The Guild predated the Empire and had enough economic power to maintain its independence. It was as safe a meeting place as they could hope for. Jake's ship docked at the station amid heavy security. Imperial vessels flanked one side of the station, human ships the other. The tension was thick enough to cut. He dressed in his full military uniform, medals, and all. Let them see what they were dealing with. A warrior who had earned every piece of metal on his chest. His sidearm sat holstered at his hip. The Guild had agreed to allow it, over Imperial protests. The meeting room was cavernous, designed to accommodate beings of various sizes. At the far end sat Emperor Zarthan IX. Jake had seen pictures, but they didn't do the alien justice. 12 feet of muscle and armor plating, with 6 eyes that tracked Jake's every movement. The Emperor's 4 arms rested on a portable throne, each hand capable of crushing stone. Jake Morrison, the Emperor's voice rumbled like an avalanche. The human who killed my Shadow Blades. Emperor Zarthan. Jake replied, standing at attention but not bowing. The alien who sent them. A tense silence filled the room. Imperial guards shifted nervously. Jake's hand didn't move toward his weapon, but they could all sense his readiness. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Emperor laughed. It was a sound like grinding boulders, but there was genuine amusement in it. Bold. I like that. Do you know how long it has been since someone spoke to me without groveling? I wouldn't know. I don't pay attention to alien politics unless they're trying to kill me. Which we were, the Emperor acknowledged. Tell me, Morrison, how'd you do it? My shadow blades have killed champions from 100 worlds. They have never failed before. Jay considered his answer. They relied too much on their advantages. Phasing, strength, fear. Take those away, and they're just soldiers. I've been fighting soldiers my whole life. Just soldiers, the Emperor repeated. You killed 12 of the galaxy's deadliest assassins, and call them just soldiers. Dead is dead. Doesn't matter how scary you are if you have a knife in your throat. The Emperor leaned forward. You interest me, human. Your species interests me. Every other race we encountered either surrendered immediately or fell after the first real show of force. But you humans, you keep fighting, even when you cannot win. We have a saying on Earth, Jake said. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. I do not understand this reference. It means we don't give up. Ever. You can kill us, but you can't beat us. There's a difference. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. I have conquered 17 star systems. I have never lost a war. But I think a war with humanity might be different. You would make us pay for every victory. And you would never truly submit, would you? No, even if I destroyed Earth itself. Jake's expression hardened. Then, every human in the galaxy would dedicate their life to ending you. Your empire would face 1,000,000 Jake Morrisons, each one willing to die to take you down. And many would succeed, the Emperor mused. If one human could kill my shadow blades, what could 1,000,000 do? What weapons would you develop? What tactics would you perfect? You would turn war into an art form. We already have. We've been killing each other for thousands of years. We're very good at it. Yes, the Emperor stood, his massive frame towering over everyone. Which is why I proposed something different. En alliance. The room erupted. Imperial advisors protested loudly. Even Jake was surprised. En alliance. My empire is vast, but it has enemies. The void hunters from beyond the galactic rim. The machine consciousness that consumes entire systems. The hive that breeds in dark space. I have fought them all, but they grow stronger. I need allies who will not break when tested. And you think humans are those allies. I know you are. You have proven it. One human stood against 12 shadow blades and triumphed. What could human military expertise do with Imperial technology? What could your warriors accomplish with our resources? Jake saw the trap now. Not a physical one, but political. Accept, and humanity becomes the Empire's attack dogs. Refuse, and the war continues. Counterproposal, Jake said. Autonomy. Complete human independence. We'll fight beside you against these threats, but as equals. No tribute. No subjugación. No imperial oversight of human worlds. Impossible. No race has such freedom within the Empire. Then, we'll be the first. Or we'll be enemies. Your choice. The Emperor's 6 eyes narrowed. You would risk war over pride? It's not pride. It's survival. Today you want us as allies. Tomorrow, you might change your mind. We need guarantees. What guarantee could I give that you would trust? Jake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Your heir, one of your children, comes to Earth. Lives among us. Learns our ways. A hostage and all, but name. The throne room exploded again. This time, Imperial guards actually drew weapons before the Emperor raised a hand. Idare. Jake interrupted. You sent assassins after me. I sent them back in pieces. Now you want peace? This is the price. Your heir among us, our independence guaranteed. Or we can keep fighting and see who runs out of bodies first. The Emperor stared at Jake for a long, long moment. The human stared back, unblinking. You would make a terrible enemy, Jake Morrison. Yes, I would. But perhaps a valuable ally. The Emperor moved closer. Even at a respectful distance, Jake had to crane his neck to maintain eye contact. You truly believe your people would continue fighting even if I glassed your homeworld? I know they would. Humans are spiteful creatures, Emperor. We've nuked our own cities out of spite. We've burned our own fields so enemies couldn't have them. Push us far enough, and we'll drag you into hell with us. And if I agree, if I send my heir to Earth and guarantee human autonomy, then you get human soldiers fighting your enemies, human tacticians planning your battles, human engineers improving your weapons. We're very creative when it comes to warfare. The Emperor turned to his advisors, spoke in his own language. The argument was heated but brief. When he turned back, his expression was resolved. I have a daughter, Zara. She is young, barely past her first molting. I will send her to Earth as cultural exchange. In return, humanity joins the Empire as autonomous allies. No tribute, no oversight. But when the Empire calls for aid against the Void Hunters or the Hive, you answer. And if we determine the Empire is the aggressor in a conflict, then you may abstain, but only in wars of conquest. Against the true threats, you must stand with us. Jake looked at Colonel Chun, who had been silent throughout the exchange. She gave him a subtle nod. We'll need a formal treaty. Terms in writing. Penalties for violations on both sides. Of course, my scribes will work with your diplomats. The Emperor paused. One more thing, Morrison. You will be personally responsible for my daughter's safety on Earth. Me? I'm a soldier, not a babysitter. You are the human who killed 12 Shadowblades. If anyone can keep her safe, it is you. This is non-negotiable. Jake sighed. From special forces to alien daycare. How had his life come to this? Fine, but she follows Earth rules while she's there. No special treatment. Agreed. And Morrison? If anything happens to her, then we're back to war. I understand. The Emperor smiled, showing far too many teeth. I think we understand each other well. This alliance might actually work. As the formal negotiations began, Jake stepped back to watch. He had gone from fighting for his life in a cabin to negotiating galactic peace in 2 weeks. The universe had a twisted sense of humor, but he had done what needed to be done. Humanity had its autonomy. The Emperor had his alliance. And somewhere out there, the real threats, the Void Hunters, the Hive, the machine consciousness continued to grow stronger. Jake had a feeling his fighting days were far from over. They were just beginning on a much larger scale. 6 months later, Jake stood at the Denver spaceport, watching an Imperial shuttle descend through Earth's atmosphere. The media was going crazy. First official Imperial visit to Earth. The daughter of Emperor Zarthan IX, coming to live among humans. Jake wore civilian clothes, trying to blend in with a diplomatic welcome committee. It didn't work. Everyone knew who he was now. The human who had killed 12 Shadowblades. The man who had negotiated humanity's autonomy. Some called him a hero. Others worried he had painted a target on Earth's back. The shuttle touched down with surprising grace for such a large vessel. Imperial design was all about intimidation. Black metal, sharp angles, weapon ports visible even on diplomatic craft. The ramp lowered with a hiss of pressurized atmosphere. Princess Zara was nothing like Jake had expected. Where her father was massive and intimidating, she was small for her species, only 7 feet tall. Her 4 arms were slender, not yet bulked with adult muscle. Most surprising were her eyes. All 6 of them showed curiosity, not the cold calculation he had seen in every other Imperial. She was young, maybe equivalent to a human teenager, and she looked terrified. Princess Zura, the Earth ambassador, stepped forward with practiced diplomatic grace. Welcome to Earth. We hope. You are Jake Morrison. The princess ignored the ambassador entirely, focusing on Jake, the one who killed the Shadowblades. That's me. She tilted her head, studying him. You are smaller than I expected. I get that a lot. My father says you're the most dangerous human alive. But you do not look dangerous. Jake smiled slightly. Good. Makes my job easier. The princess seemed to consider this. Then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed. It was nothing like her father's grinding boulder sound. This was almost musical. I think I will like Earth, she declared. The first few weeks were an adjustment for everyone. Zara had been given a specially modified residence on a secure military base, but she hated it. Too isolated, she said. Too much like the palace back home. She wanted to see real human life. Against all security protocols, Jake found himself taking the alien princess to a local mall. "This is where humans gather," she asked, all six eyes wide as she watched the crowds. "One of the places. We're social creatures. But there's so many of you, and you're all different sizes and colors. How do you determine rank?" "We don't. Not here. That guy in the expensive suit might be rich, but in this mall, he waits in line for coffee just like everyone else. No caste system, no genetic hierarchy. We tried those. They didn't end well." Zara absorbed this information like a sponge. She was fascinated by everything: fast food, movie theaters, arcade games. Her 4 arms gave her an advantage at air hockey that Jake found deeply unfair. In the Empire, she said over something called a pizza that she had decided was the greatest invention in the galaxy. Everything is ordered. Everyone knows their place from birth. But here, you can be whatever you want, more or less. "Could I be a warrior like you?" Jake paused mid-bite. "Why would you want that?" "Because warriors are respected. Even my father respects you, and he respects very little." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "He has nightmares about you, you know. The human who cannot be killed. Everyone can be killed, princess. I just got lucky." "No." Her voice was serious now. "I've studied the recordings. You were not lucky. You were, what is the human word? Determined. You refused to die. Stubborn. The word you're looking for is stubborn." She laughed again. Jake found himself liking the sound. Trouble came in the 3rd month. Jake woke to his security system screaming alerts. Multiple contacts moving fast. Not Imperial signatures, something else. He rolled out of bed, grabbed his weapons, and sprinted for Zara's room. The door exploded inward before he reached it. Void hunters. Jake had read the classified reports, but seeing them in person was different. They looked like someone had taken a squid, covered it in black armor, and given it too many teeth. Their tentacles ended in blades that could pierce steel. 3 of them were already in Zara's room. She was backed against the wall, fear obvious in all 6 eyes. Jake didn't hesitate. 20 years of muscle memory took over. He put 2 rounds center mass into the first hunter, dove under a tentacle swipe from the second, came up firing. The third tried to grab Zara. She surprised everyone by fighting back. Her 4 arms weren't just for show. She punched the hunter hard enough to crack its armor. Jake finished it off with a knife to what he hoped was its brain. "Moo!" He grabbed one of her arms, pulling her toward the door. More hunters were coming. He could hear them in the walls. Somehow, they had bypassed every security measure. "How did they find me?" Zara asked as they ran. "Worry about that later. Can you fight?" I have had training, but Jake shoved a pistol into one of her hands. "Point and shoot. Don't think, just react." They fought their way through the base. Void hunters seemed to pour out of every shadow. Jake began to understand why the Emperor feared them. They were relentless, adaptive. Every tactic he used, they learned to counter within minutes. Worse, they were specifically after Zara. They ignored easier targets to focus on her. "They want me alive," she gasped as they took cover in the armory. "My father's weakness. If they take me, they're not taking you." Jake loaded a drum magazine into an assault rifle. "We've got a panic room in sublevel 3. Reinforced walls, independent air supply. We just need to get there." "Jake." Her voice was small. "I am scared." He looked at the young alien princess, far from home, hunted by nightmares. In that moment, she wasn't the heir to a galactic empire. She was just a scared kid. "Good," he said. "Fear keeps you sharp. Use it. Don't let it use you." She nodded, gripping the pistol tighter. What would a human do? A human. Jake checked his ammunition. A human would get angry. These things invaded our world. Attacked a guest under our protection. That pisses me off. He stood, rifle ready. "Stay close. Move when I move. Shoot anything that isn't human." They burst from the armory like a storm. Jake had fought shadow blades with skill and tactics. Against the void hunters, he fought with pure, controlled rage. Every burst of gunfire was precise. Every movement calculated to kill. Zara stayed close, firing when targets presented themselves. She was a quick learner. By the time they reached the panic room, she had killed 3 hunters herself. Jake sealed the reinforced door behind them. The hunters immediately began cutting through. They had minutes at most. The cavalry should be here soon, Jake said, though he wasn't sure. The base was in chaos. Communications were down. For all he knew, they were on their own. Jake. Zara was looking at him strangely. You could have run. Left me. Why did you stay? Gave my word to your father. You're under my protection. But you hate the Empire. We tried to kill you. Jake reloaded his rifle. Yeah, well, you're not your father. And, right now, you're my responsibility. That means something to humans. The door glowed red. The hunters were almost through. When they break in, Jake said, stay behind me. We'll make them pay for every inch. Like you did with the Shadow Lades? Exactly like that. The door exploded. Void hunters poured through. Jake Morrison made a stand. Every round found its mark. When the rifle ran dry, he used the pistol. When that was empty, he used his knife. And when a hunter's tentacle shattered the blade, he used his hands. Zara watched in awe and terror as the human fought. He was smaller than the hunters, weaker, slower. But he would not stop. A tentacle pierced his shoulder. He trapped it and used the hunter's momentum to throw it into its companion. Claws raked his chest. He ignored the pain and kept fighting. This was what had terrified her father. Not human technology or numbers, but this. The absolute refusal to surrender. The last hunter fell as the real cavalry arrived. Human Marines poured into the panic room, weapons ready. They found Jake standing over a pile of alien bodies, blood streaming from dozens of wounds, still ready to fight. And behind him, completely unharmed, stood Princess Zara. Sir, the Marine captain stared at the carnage. Are you fine? Jake swayed slightly. The princess. I am safe. Zara moved to support him, her forearms easily taking his weight. Thanks to you. Just doing my job, Jake muttered. Then he passed out. He woke in a medical bay for the second time in 6 months. This was becoming a bad habit. Zara sat beside his bed, reading something on a human tablet. She looked up when he stirred. The doctors say you are too stubborn to die, she informed him. I told them I could have diagnosed that myself. How long? 2 days. The Void Hunters are gone. My father sent a fleet when he heard about the attack. They glassed 3 of their hive ships in retaliation. Good. Jake tried to sit up, thought better of it. You okay? I am uninjured. You saw to that. She set down the tablet. Jake, I need to tell you something. The Void Hunters did not randomly find me. Someone told them where I was. Someone in the Empire wants this alliance to fail. Jake wasn't surprised. Politics was the same everywhere. Someone always wanted power. Any idea who? Several ideas. But that is not important right now. She leaned forward. What is important is that you saved my life. In my culture, that creates a debt. A life debt. You don't owe me anything, princess. It's my job. It is more than that. All 6 of her eyes focused on him intently. I have watched you for months. Studied you. You could have treated me as a burden, a political pawn. Instead, you showed me your world. Taught me. Protected me even unto death. Anyone would have no. Her voice was firm. They would not. My own guards have fled when faced with lesser dangers. You stayed. You fought impossible odds for someone who, months ago, was your enemy. Jake was uncomfortable with the praise. What's your point? My point is that my father was wrong about humans. You're not just stubborn warriors. You are, honorable is not the right word. Loyal. Yes, loyal. You choose who to protect, and then you do not waver. Some of us, maybe all of you in different ways. I have been watching. The soldier who gives his food to homeless humans. The teacher who works extra hours for struggling students. The parents who sacrifice for their children. It is beautiful. Jake had never heard anyone describe humanity as beautiful before. Usually, aliens found them chaotic, violent, unpredictable. I want to learn, Zara continued. Not just your warfare, but your compassion, your loyalty, your determination to protect what matters. And then, I return to the Empire and change it. Make it more like Earth. Less conquest, more cooperation. Jake studied the young princess. That's a dangerous dream. Empires don't change easily. No, but they can change. You proved that when you killed the Shadow Lades. One human changed the Emperor's mind. Perhaps one Imperial can change the Empire itself. With human stubbornness? She smiled, showing teeth that were far less threatening than her father's. With human stubbornness. Jake found himself smiling back. Maybe this alliance would work out after all, not because of treaties or military might, but because a young princess had learned something important. Sometimes, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't strength or fear or conquest. Sometimes, it was the simple act of one being choosing to protect another, no matter the cost. 5 years had passed since Princess Zara first set foot on Earth. 5 years of growth, change, and revelation. The gangly young Imperial who had arrived, terrified and curious, had transformed into something neither human nor fully Imperial. Something new. Jake watched her now, addressing a joint session of human Imperial military commanders via hologram. She stood tall, confident, switching seamlessly between Galactic Standard and English as she outlined new defensive strategies against the machine consciousness. The machines adapt to our tactics within 47.3 hours of first contact, she explained, her forearms gesturing to highlight different points on the tactical display. But human irregular warfare doctrine suggests a solution. Instead of consistent patterns, we randomize. What humans call organized chaos. An Imperial general snorted. Chaos is not strategy. With respect, General KR talk, you have lost 3 fleets to the machines using traditional Imperial doctrine. The humans have lost none using these methods. Jake had a smile. The princess had definitely learned human stubbornness. After the briefing, Zara found Jake in his office. 5 years of constant threats had aged him. New scars crossed old ones. His hair, once dark, now showed silver at the temples. But his eyes remained sharp as ever. You did well in there, he said. I had a good teacher. She settled into the specially modified chair across from him. Jake, we need to talk about the succession. Your father's still alive, last I checked. Yes, but the nobility grows restless. Our changes threaten their power. 3 more assassination attempts this month alone. Jake's expression darkened. They'd stopped counting attempts after the 20th. Void hunters, rebel nobles, even some humans who saw the alliance as capitulation. He'd killed them all. What are you thinking? I am thinking it is time to return home, to claim my place as heir apparent officially. But she hesitated. I want you to come with me. To the Imperial capital? A human? They'd riot. Let them try. Her eyes flashed with inherited Imperial temper. You are my guardian, my teacher, my... She paused, searching for words. My friend, I will not navigate that snake pit without you. Jake leaned back. He'd known this day would come. Zara couldn't hide on Earth forever. The galaxy was changing too fast. The machine consciousness grew stronger. The hive pressed closer to inhabited systems. The mysterious entities they'd started calling Devourers had consumed 3-star systems in the past year alone. Humanity and the Empire needed unified leadership. They needed Zara. When? Tomorrow. My father has summoned me. He says it is time I proved myself worthy of the throne. And how does one prove themselves worthy in the Empire? Zara's expression grew grim. Trial by combat. Against his current heir presumptive. My cousin Thax. Jake knew Thax by reputation. A traditionalist who believed humans were parasites to be exterminated. He'd opposed the alliance from day one. He'll fight dirty. Yes, which is why I need you. Not to fight for me, she added quickly, but to ensure the fight is fair. You have a reputation now, Jake. The unkillable human. Even Thax fears you. Everyone can be killed. Jake repeated his old mantra. Perhaps, but you make them work for it. The next day, they departed Earth aboard Zara's personal cruiser, a hybrid of human and Imperial design. The crew was mixed as well, the 2 species learning to work together. It was a microcosm of what Zara envisioned for the future. The journey to the Imperial capital took 3 weeks through hyperspace. Jake used the time to drill Zara in combat techniques. She had natural advantages, size, strength, reach with 4 arms. But she'd spent 5 years on Earth, getting comfortable. Soft. Again, Jake ordered after knocking her down for the 10th time. I have 4 arms and 100 pounds on you, she protested. This should not be possible. Thax has the same advantages, plus 20 years of combat experience. Again, she came at him with renewed determination. This time, she lasted 30 seconds before he put her on the deck. Better. You're telegraphing with your lower left arm. Thax will see it. How do you see it? You only have 2 eyes. I pay attention. Again, by the time they reached Imperial space, Zara could hold her own for several minutes. It wasn't enough to beat Jake, but it might be enough to survive Thax. The Imperial capital was everything Earth wasn't. Where humans built chaotically, organically, the Imperials had planned every inch of their world. Massive spires reached into the atmosphere, connected by bridges that could hold entire cities. The palace sat at the center, a fortress city that had never fallen in 10,000 years of recorded history. Jake felt the hostility the moment they landed. Imperial citizens stared at him with undisguised hatred. The human who had killed their perfect shadow blades. The corruption that had infected their princess. Guards fingered weapons, held back only by Zara's presence and Jake's reputation. Emperor Zarthan received them in the same throne room where Jake had first seen the Shadow Blade's bodies returned. The Emperor had aged in 5 years. Still massive, still powerful, but something in his 6 eyes seemed tired. "Daughter," he rumbled, "you return changed. I return educated, father. By humans." The word dripped disdain from several nobles. By allies who have proven their worth 100 times over, Zara shot back. Or have you forgotten the human fleet that saved Rigel Colony from machines? The human medics who developed a cure for the wasting? The human who stands beside me now, who has kept me alive despite every attempt otherwise. Jake Morrison, the Emperor's gaze fixed on him. The human who started it all. Do you know what you have cost me? 12 shadow blades, last I counted. A dangerous silence filled the throne room. Then the Emperor laughed. That grinding boulder sound Jake remembered. Still fearless. Good. You will need that courage for what comes next. He gestured, and guards brought forward another figure. My nephew, Thax. Your opponent, daughter. Thax was everything Zara wasn't. Where she had grown lean and quick on Earth, he was bulk and armor. His natural plating had been enhanced with cybernetics. His 4 arms ended in claws that sparked with electrical current. Cousin, he sneered. Come to play at being air? You smell like human. Weak. Corrupted. I smell like victory, Zara replied calmly. When did you last win a battle? Thax? When did you last do anything but hide behind a fleet while others died? Thax's eyes narrowed. Tomorrow, we settle this. Traditional combat. No weapons, no armor, no human tricks. Agreed. And when I win, you will accept human integration into all levels of Imperial society. When you lose, I will exterminate every human in the galaxy. Jake stepped forward. Big talk for someone who's never faced a real opponent. Thax turned his glare on the human. You're not part of this, ape. I'm her guardian. That makes me very much part of this. Jake's hand rested casually on his sidearm. Touch her outside the arena, and we'll see how well those fancy cybernetics hold up to armor-piercing rounds. You dare threaten me? Here, in a throne room? Statement of fact, not threat. I've killed beings a lot scarier than you. Enough. The Emperor's voice cut through the tension. The trial is set. Tomorrow at dawn. To submission or death, as the challenge chooses. Thax smiled, showing far too many teeth. Death. That night, Jake found Zara on the palace's highest balcony, looking out over the capital. Earth's moon hung visible in the sky, a reminder of how far they'd all come. Scared, he asked. Terrified. Thax is stronger, more experienced, and he wants me dead. I might have made a terrible mistake. Jake stood beside her. Maybe, but backing down now would be worse. You'd lose everything you've worked for, everything we've built. The Alliance could survive without me. No, it couldn't. You're the bridge. The one being who understands both sides. He paused. Besides, I trained you. You say my training isn't good enough? She laughed despite her fear. Your ego remains very human. My ego keeps me alive. Confidence matters in a fight. Thax expects you to be the scared little princess who left 5 years ago. Show him who you've become instead. And who have I become? Jay considered. Someone worth following. Human and Imperial both see it. That's why Thax wants you dead. You're a threat to the old ways. The old ways made the Empire strong, and the new ways will make it stronger. Adaptation, Zara, it's how humans survived on Earth, and it's how the Empire will survive what's coming. She turned to him. Will you be there tomorrow? Try to stop me. Thax will have supporters in the crowd. If I fall, you won't fall. Jake's voice carried absolute certainty. But if you do, I'll make sure Thax doesn't live to celebrate. That would start a war. Some things are worth a war. They stood in comfortable silence, teacher and student, human and imperial, friends against all odds. Dawn came too quickly. The arena was ancient, carved from a single piece of obsidian. Thousands of Imperials filled the stands, their voices a constant rumble. Jake spotted human observers too, military attaches, diplomats, even some civilians who'd earned the right to witness history. Zara entered from the east, wearing simple combat attire. No armor, as agreed. Her forearms were bare, muscles visible beneath her scaled skin. She looked young, vulnerable. Thax entered from the west, a mountain of muscle and aggression. The crowd roared approval. Here was a proper Imperial warrior, not some human corrupted pretender. The terms, the Emperor announced, his voice amplified throughout the arena. Combat until death or submission. No weapons. No interference. Let the strongest prevail. Jake positioned himself at the arena's edge, close enough to observe every detail, close enough to act if treachery showed itself. The combatants circled each other. Thax moved with arrogant confidence. Zara stayed light on her feet. Human boxing footwork Jake had drilled into her. Thax struck first, a devastating four-armed rush that would have pulverized most opponents. But Zara wasn't there. She'd slipped aside, a human dodge, and landed a solid hit to his ribs as he passed. First blood to the princess. Thax roared and charged again. This time Zara met him head-on, using his momentum against him. A judo throw Jake had taught her sent the massive Imperial crashing to the obsidian. The crowd fell silent. Their champion, thrown by a smaller opponent, Thax rose slowly, rage replacing arrogance. Human tricks. Effective tricks, Zara corrected. They engaged again. Thax had reach and power, but Zara had spent 5 years sparring with Jake Morrison. She'd learned to fight opponents who should be able to destroy her. Duck, weave, strike, retreat. Death by 1,000 cuts. But Thax was learning too. He began timing her movements, predicting her patterns. A massive backhand caught her across the jaw, sending her spinning. He followed up with a grab, lifting her off the ground. Now you die, pretender. Jake tensed. But Zara had drilled this scenario too. Her lower arms found pressure points Jake had identified on Imperial physiology. Nerves that even enhanced armor couldn't protect. Thax screamed and dropped her. She rolled away, came up striking. Precise blows to joints, soft spots, vulnerabilities no traditional Imperial training would have revealed. The fight turned brutal. Both combatants bled from dozens of wounds. The obsidian was slick with purple Imperial blood. But Jake saw what others missed. Zara was controlling the pace. Every wound she took, she gave back too. Every time Thax thought he had her, she showed him another human trick. Finally, inevitably, Thax made a fatal mistake. Exhausted and frustrated, he overextended on a killing blow. Zara flowed around it, locked all 4 of her arms around one of his, and wrenched. The crack of breaking bone echoed across the arena. Thax went to his knees, one arm hanging useless. Zara didn't hesitate. She struck his other shoulder, dislocating it. Then his knee, dropping him flat. In seconds, the massive warrior was helpless on the ground. Zara stood over him, breathing hard. She could kill him easily now. Traditional Imperial law demanded it. Yield, she said instead. Never. Kill me, or be marked as weak. I'm not weak. She looked up at her father, at the crowd, at Jake. But neither am I needlessly cruel. Yield, cousin. Live to serve the new empire we will build. The human has made you soft, Thax spat. No, humans have made me wise. They showed me strength without cruelty, power without oppression, victory without slaughter. She raised her voice so all could hear. I offer you what no Imperial has offered before, mercy. Take it. The arena held its breath. Mercy was not the Imperial way. But as Jake watched, he saw something change in the crowd. Curiosity replacing bloodlust. Consideration replacing automatic rejection. "I yield," Thax whispered. The arena erupted. Not in anger, but in confusion, debate, wonder. An Imperial trial by combat, ending in mercy? It was unprecedented. Emperor Zarthan stood. "My daughter has proven her worth. She is heir to the Empire. Let any who dispute this face her in combat." No one moved. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, "She has shown wisdom beyond her years. The human alliance stands. Integration begins immediately." Jake allowed himself a smile. They'd done it. Not through force alone, but by changing minds. The slow, difficult work of real change. Zara limped over to him, exhausted but triumphant. "Did I do well, teacher?" "You did perfectly. What now?" Jake looked around the arena. Imperial and human observers were actually talking to each other. Not agreeing, not yet, but talking. Now the real work begins. Changing an empire is harder than winning a fight. Good thing I have human stubbornness. Good thing indeed. 6 months later, Jake stood in full dress uniform as Princess Zara officially took her place as Crown Princess of the Galactic Empire. The ceremony blended Imperial tradition with human innovation. The old guard grumbled, but they couldn't argue with results. The machine consciousness had been pushed back from 3 systems using human Imperial combined tactics. The Hive had actually retreated after facing unified resistance. Even the mysterious Devourers seemed to be reconsidering their approach to Imperial space. "You know," Colonel Chin said, standing beside Jake at the reception, "when you kill those shadow blades, did you imagine it would lead to this?" Jake watched Zara address the mixed crowd, switching seamlessly between languages, building bridges with every word. "No, I just wanted to survive. And now I think we all might survive. Together." Across the room, Zara caught his eye and smiled. The scared young princess was gone. In her place stood a leader who understood that true strength came not from domination, but from unity. Not from fear, but from respect. The Galactic Emperor had sent assassins for a Navy SEAL. That SEAL had killed them all and sent them back. But more than that, he'd sent back a message. Humans don't kneel. They stand. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they'll teach you to stand too. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in a small cabin in the Colorado mountains, recently rebuilt, a rifle sat cleaned and ready. Just in case. Because Jake Morrison knew that peace was always temporary, but worth fighting for anyway. That too was human stubbornness. And it had changed the course of galactic history.